Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Real, Raw, and Honest. So, today we're going to continue looking at uncertainty, and we're going to look at a few other areas where we can feel very uncertain, feel a little bit more than a little bit undone, have a lot of panic or anxiety that might come up in it. So, today we're going to be talking about some of those major things that we all experience from time to time. Something like maybe moving to another community. That can bring you a lot of uncertainty about your future, and it can bring up a lot of emotions, a lot of fear about, you know, will I fit in? Am I going to have friends? Am I going to be successful in this new community that I'm going to? Am I going to be happy? Are my kids going to be happy? Is everybody going to hate the move? And sometimes, you're moving from a big community to a small community, or from a small community to a large community. Maybe you're moving cities across the country. All of these things can create a lot of uncertainty, a lot of concern, a lot of fear, and even some panic. And so, especially when you're married, especially when you have children, the decision is yours to make, but is also the decision of your family. And so, maybe not everybody's on board. There's a lot of uncertainty about that, what that means for those that aren't completely on board with the move. It's a big decision, and one that we have to make from time to time. And something that people might struggle with also is going back to school. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to get my doctorate. I'm going to go back to school, and I'm going to, finish my education now that the kids are growing. I'm going to go to university from high school. Maybe I've, been out of school for 5 years, and now I've decided it's time for me to go and get my doctorate, or to go back to school and get a career. And there's so much uncertainty around that because school is difficult and going back to school is challenging. And there's all of the things that come along with it. I've been out of school for a long time. Am I going to be able to handle the workload? Am I going to be, am I going to have friends? Am I going to be able to pass? Maybe you're going back to school for the trades, and you've got to deal with things like childcare, or you've got other situations like that. It's like, am I too old to start a trade? Is this the right thing to do? It's expensive. All of those things, right, are going to be things that you're going to struggle with. And again, there's the fitting in, there's the friendships. And maybe if you're older and you're in your 20s and your 30s and you're going to school, it doesn't always have to be that thing that's like, friendships might not be the most important thing when you're going back to school at that age, but there's other things. How is my family going to make ends meet while I'm in school? How am I going to pay the mortgage? How am I going to do these things with the limited amount of income that I have coming in? So big questions, big decisions that are going to pay off in the long run. Am I going to be able to get a job once I get my ticket? These are all things that we struggle with, that keep us locked in the position that we're in and keep us in that state of concern and fear. Maybe for some of you, starting a business is where you're at. Starting your own clinic, starting your own church, maybe even. And, there's all the questions. Is it going to prosper? Am I going to be successful? Is this worth my while? Is it worth the headache? I don't know how to do the paperwork. I don't know how to do this. These are all uncertainty, all things, right? Uncertain on how to make it happen. And then, if you're starting a business, the question is always, is there a demand? Am I going to go bankrupt? These are all really big decisions. Is the bank going to give me the loan to start my business? Where is the best location in order to have this particular business? Big choices, big decisions, lots of uncertainty around these things. And these are things that we will all face at some point in our life, unless we decide to go get the 9 to 5 and stay in the 9 to 5 until we retire and take out our retirement package, which, if that's what you've decided to do, good for you. That's awesome. But then let's take a look at one that most people do face, and that's that of getting married. Getting married is something that, while you're dating, it can seem like a really great idea. But once you get married, you've got the the regular everyday life that happens with that, the marriage, every day it's the same thing, right? Like you both go to work, you come home, you have supper, you maybe watch a little bit of TV or go to church, go to a Bible study, and then come home and go to bed, right? How do you keep that alive? So there's the financial cost of getting married. If you're going to have a big wedding, you have to look at that cost. Is how much is it going to be? I mean, when I got married the first time, even when I got married the second time, we just did a very small thing when we got married. But the first time we got married, it was still, a couple $1,000s. And, that's expensive, right? But there's some people who get married and it can cost $100,000, depending on how many people you're going to invite and how elaborate you want your wedding to be. You'll go into your wedding, and I don't know many people who go into it thinking, no, this is going to work. We're going to be married for 60 or 70 years, and then we're going to die, and that's going to be it. Most people wonder, is their marriage going to work? Do I like this person enough to be married to them forever? So there's the fear of divorce. And then there's the question about kids. Do we have kids? Do we not have kids? Maybe you have, it's your second relationship, and you're blending a family. How is that going to work? All of these things, all of these questions are questions that are there, that are in the back of our mind, things we need to discuss. And then there is the having kids. Once we get married, do we have kids? What do we do? How do we make that work? How expensive will it be? You've got to look at things like schooling. You've got to look at things like childcare before you have children. You have to look at maybe education funds. How am I going to make that work? How much money is this going to cost me every month? There's the parenting abilities. Am I going to be able to do this? Especially if you've come out of a chaotic, traumatic home life, how are you going to parent? Are you going to be a better parent than your parents were? Are you going to be able to handle the stress of being married and having children? And then what if you and your spouse don't see eye to eye on how things should be dealt with the children? Uncertainty. You talk about it before you get married, but that can often look very different after you're married and after the children come along. One of you will always be stricter than the other, and the other will be much more compliant. And so how do you get along with that? How do you determine how to decide how these things are going to look and how they're going to work? These are all things that we struggle with. Big uncertainty issues, right? And then, we're talking about therapy, we're talking about healing, we're talking about counseling, we're looking at some of these things as we look at real, raw, and honest. And so who do I trust? If you're going to go to therapy, how do you know who do you trust? Who do you go to that's going to be able to help you the best? What kind of therapy are you looking for? Where do you go? How expensive is it? How much is it going to cost me? Is my insurance going to cover it? And then there's the fear of sharing. Some things are easy to share and some things are not easy to share. Sometimes it's easy to talk about the fact that your life was chaotic, but you might be very shameful about the fact that you had somebody touch you inappropriately when you were a child, or did very inappropriate things to you when you were a child. That can carry a lot of shame, a lot of guilt. So how do you resolve these things? These are all major life decisions. And honestly, I think about it and I go, I think most people need therapy of some kind. I think people need to go see a counselor, a Christian counselor. They need to work through some things. I think it does most people good. But yes, like everything else, there are good counselors, there are good therapists, and there are those who are not that good. How do you determine? Where do you go? What's the best fit? Big life choices, big life decisions. Excuse me, I need to get a drink. And as you can see, my associate is helping me today. I'm not sure how helpful he is, but he's here. These are all, like I said, big life changes. And your emotions are going to be on a wild ride as you deal with these things. There's going to be emotional upheaval from time to time, maybe even anger that things aren't coming together as well as you'd like them to. anger when you're in therapy, looking at your past and going, it makes me angry that was where I came from. It was unjust, it was unfair. I was a child, I didn't deserve that. That can be some of the feelings that you have. A move, you can't get the moving truck for the weekend that you need it. And all of these things, there can be things that can bring up some anger, some frustration. And like I said, fear, panic, anxiety, the fear that you're doing the wrong thing, making the wrong choices. And what do you do once you're in it? Once you have that baby, what do? You can't turn around and decide you're not going to have it, right? Like, at 5 years old, you can't just, like, you're in it, all right? And so there's all of these uncertainty things. Feeling stuck, maybe you and your spouse are not on the same page, but it's the thing that's going to make you X number of dollars more each year. These are big issues. And, you'll feel the stress, the anxiety, maybe even some panic, excitement and hope and joy. All of those things can be a part of the package in all of these situations as well. So as we look at this, these uncertain experiences that we go through, starting a church, pastoring a church, retirement is another area. Are we going to be able to financially succeed? Are we going to be able to financially afford to retire? What are we going to do if we can't? All of these are big issues that need to be looked at, need to take the time to ponder them through, pray about them, discuss them with our spouse and our family, and make the best decision that we can, and then stick with it. So let's take a look then at what some of the tools are that we can use to help us to go through these big life major choices and decisions that we might be up against. So the first thing is to realize and accept that you are struggling with uncertainty. I don't think that most people that I've ever counseled before they got married go into it going, yeah, this is it. This is great. I'm good. We're on the right track. No thought, no concern, no fear. All of those things I've mentioned are always part of the decision. Even after my first husband passed away and I got married the second time, those thoughts were still there. And I kept thinking, I'm too old to make a mistake now. So this had better be the right thing, God. If it's not the right thing, I'm asking you to speak to me now so I can back out before I ever go down that aisle. So it's a big deal to make these choices and make these decisions, right? Like, yeah, I might have less years married on this side than I did on the first side, but I still don't want to be unhappily married. Good thing for me, we've been married now for 3.5 years and it's been great. Not to say that there hasn't been any ups and downs, but it's been good. It's been good. We're well suited for one another. We have great, rich conversations. We pray together. All of these things are part of who we are as a couple. But these are some of the things, right? Realizing and accepting that you are struggling with the uncertainty of the major life decision that you have to make. Like I said, some of the things that we've just talked about, the move across the country or the move to a smaller community, making a decision like that. If you're a city person, country life is very different. A rural community is very different than a city community. And so it's learning, making those decisions, and then admitting to the Lord and to yourself, I'm struggling with the decision. I'm struggling with going back to school. I'm struggling with putting my child in childcare. I'm struggling with the fact that I can work from home, but I still have to put my child in childcare so that they're not a distraction while I'm at work. These are all valid concerns that you have. So admitting them. Yes, I am struggling. Yes, I am excited, but yes, I am struggling. There is some concern in that. The second thing that we can do is to accept that God can use your uncertainty. God wants to use every situation that we're in to grow you in the Spirit and to help you to develop the fruit of the Spirit. He wants to mature you. And so he doesn't want you to stay in a place where there's everything every day is the same. Every day you walk in, you do the same thing, you go home. That's not going to bring growth. That's going to bring stagnation. And so being in an environment where we can say, okay, God, I recognize that you want to use this situation that I'm in to help me to mature, to help me to become a mature believer. And I know that in this situation, God, you want to create and you want to develop in me the fruit of the Spirit. So where I'm feeling frustration right now, where I'm feeling fear and panic right now, I'm asking you, Lord God, for the fruit of the Spirit of peace and joy and hope, right? I'm looking in this situation, I'm resting in you and trusting that you're going to use this situation for your good, for my benefit, and that at the end of it, I'm going to look back and I'm going to go, even if it doesn't work out the way that I wanted it to, I'll be able to look back on it and go, I'm really glad I went through that situation because, man, I've changed and I've grown and I trust the Lord just that much more. And that's a good place to be. Number 3, I want you to pray and to be honest with the Lord about everything that you're feeling and about, like I said, that uncertainty, the panic. If you're panicked, He is the Prince of Peace, right? If you are feeling, fearful, He's the one that removes the fear. If all of those things, it's going and going, okay, God, I'm being honest with you right now. I'm going to hold nothing back. I'm angry with the fact that my boss, my work, my career is sending me to this place. I don't want to be in that place, but I don't really have any choice because I'm 55 and what am I going to do if I can't start over now? So it's this, or I have an early retirement, which I can't afford to do. So Lord, I'm angry. I don't want to go, but I'm going to do it anyway. And so work in me and just be honest about those emotions. Just like with everything else we look at, it's being honest with the Lord about your emotions, about the things that you're going through, about how you're feeling about it, and that you need Him to intervene. And this is where your hope is going to come from. This is where your change is going to come from. And number 4 is a really important one. It's to determine what you can control and what you can't. Now, when it comes to a move, you can control things like you can control booking the U-Haul. You can control going down and finding a place to live. You can control how many days it's going to take you to get there. There's certain things that you can control and there's certain things that you can't. So determining what those things are and going, okay, so what can I control in this situation of my getting married? I can control the fact that I get married or I don't. I cannot control my spouse or my future spouse. I can't control that. I can't control my parents. I can't control his parents. I don't have any idea how they're going to react, how they're going to respond, their reactions, how controlling they're going to be, how relaxed they're going to be. I cannot control any of that. But if I know what I want for my wedding, I can control that to some degree. It's your wedding. You get to do what you want on your wedding day. If it's a move, if it's a promotion, if it's going back to school, you can determine, are you going to go back to school in the fall? Are you going to go back to school in the spring? You get to choose some of those things. Determining as you make those decisions, I can control this, Lord. I'm going to release the rest of it into your hand. And remember this, you might not be able to resolve everything, but you are going to be able to resolve some things. So it's important to recognize that those things that you can resolve them. Those things that you can control and that the Lord is okay with, you just do what you've got to do. I know that there are people, and I know some of these people who pray about everything. And I mean everything to the point of going and praying about the meal that they might have in a restaurant. What does God want me to eat when I'm at the restaurant? What does God want me to wear in the morning? And I kudos to you if that's you. You do your thing. I honestly feel, and I have had a prophetic word for people from time to time where I've seen the Lord reveal to me that they were going to wear one thing and then they decided to wear something else, or that I would see them in this outfit and then I knew that that was a prophetic word I needed to release over an individual. He has used me like that. But when it comes to these things, most of the time, the Lord doesn't care what you eat as long as you're eating properly and as long as you're eating healthy. The Lord doesn't care what you wear most of the time when you leave your house, as long as you're wearing clothes when you leave your house. If He wants you to wear something specifically, He will tell you that you are to wear something specifically. And if he wants you to eat something or not eat something when you go into a restaurant, he will let you know. And I can think of of a time when my first husband and I had gone down to the States. I'm not sure what we were there for. I think my youngest son was dancing somewhere, and we were driving down, and we stopped in this place to eat, and we'd gone to like a fast food restaurant. I think it was like Taco Bello, Taco Time, or something like that. One of those places. And I went up to order, and I wanted to have a taco salad. And I heard the Lord tell me to get chicken, not beef. And I didn't listen. I wanted beef. I thought, well, most of the time, I worked in lots of restaurants. Most of the time, chicken is kind of a crapshoot in a restaurant. So I thought, well, it's probably better if I get the beef. I didn't heed the word of the Lord. Well, it was the beef I should not have had, because I was sick before we ever left the parking lot. And I had some food poisoning that I had to deal with because I had not been obedient to the voice of the Lord. But in all the years we've gone out to eat, and all the times the restaurants I've eaten in, I can think of maybe 2 times when the Lord has spoken to me about what he wanted me to eat. So yes, there's some things that you can control, some things that you can't, some things you can resolve, and some things you can't. But you want to, yes, be open to the voice of the Lord in all of those things and do what it is he's asking you to do. But just move. Do what it is he's asked. Move in the right direction. Just keep moving. What did he say to Moses? He goes, why are you standing here? Lift up your rod. Do something, basically, is what he said to Moses. And so sometimes that's the thing. We have to do what we know we can do. What have we got in front of us? What can I do with this? Let me do that. So enough harping on that. Let's go on to number 5. Number 5 is to thank God for the growth and this opportunity to reveal himself in your situation. You know, God doesn't always tell us the end from the beginning. Sometimes he asks us to do something. We just have to walk in faith. And, you know, that happens quite a bit. But if you're going to be walking with the Spirit, there's a step of faith that we all need to take. And so that is where, you know, if he invites us to move across the country or to go and speak at an event that you've never been at, or maybe to get up the first time and give your testimony. To give a testimony in the church can be very terrifying, even though God is good and the thing that he's done in your life deserves the whole conversation. There's this fear that you might have about getting up and actually doing that. And so stepping out in faith is good. Here's the truth. You can get up and give your testimony. You're probably not going to die. You can get up and you can give your testimony, and probably nobody's going to throw stones at you. You can make a decision for the furtherance of your career, and it's going to be all right. So it's thanking God for the growth of faith in your life, for taking these steps in the right direction, for moving in the direction he's called you to go in, and believing that that his plan for you is good and that he's going to do good things for you. You know, this is an opportunity. Every opportunity that we step into is an opportunity for God to reveal himself. So be looking for those things that God is doing in your life, where all of a sudden we're saying, oh, and God moved on my behalf. And God did this thing on my behalf. And God did, right? For him to be able to show up in your need and in your uncertainty, to give you that peace. Be looking for it, watching for it, be aware of it, be seeking him for it, be asking him for it, be thankful for what he's doing. And then the last thing, number 6 is, my arm is asleep now, is to give your situation to the Lord and trust him to lead you. You know, we want to have faith, but we also want to be comfortable. We want to know that God is going to lead us, but we also want to stay in a place where we understand our circumstances, and where we are familiar with every day what's going on. We can't have both. And so when God opens up these doors of uncertainty for us, and he says, I want you to take the step, I want you to walk through it, well, then it's time for us to give him the situation and to thank him for the leading of the Holy Spirit. He's got you. He loves you. His plan for you is good, and his purposes are to bless you, not to harm you. And if you can believe that when your life is pretty normal, and every day you can trust him to get you back and home and to work and back home again safely. It might be time to stretch a little and see what he's going to do in some of these other environments, but trust him, he's worthy. He's worth it. He's worthy. So thank you for listening. Have a great day. Be blessed. If you like this, please like, share, subscribe, share it with somebody that you know might be helped by this, and be encouraged. God's got you. He loves you and he is with you. Have a great day.